move on.
All right, go ahead, George.
Okay, so I'm going to open the July 13th, 2001 meeting of the East Long Meadow Planning Board. And I have to mention that we are recording this. It should show up on your Zoom that it's being recorded for LCAT. And I have to ask if anyone else is recording the meeting. Hearing none, we can proceed. There's our chair. Russ, I just opened the meeting. I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Although I don't know where I just went to. And now I have no photo or no picture.
We can see you.
Yeah, we can
See you fine.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't see any of you.
Maybe that's
There
good.
we are. Okay. And I'll get out of my work background. So hold on one second.
Looks nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Hub didn't redo my living room, that's for sure. Okay, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Sorry about the technology snafu. So, all right. I'm going to turn it over to Bethany so she can just start the proceedings. Thank you.
We need to do the minutes yet. We call the roll and do the minutes.
Oh, I thought we would do the, okay. So those in attendance are Jonathan Torsha, George Kingston, myself, Peter Punderson on behalf of the planning board. And do we have a motion to accept the minutes of our last meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say, or by roll call, Mr. Torsha,
Yes.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well.
We also need to do June 15th.
All right, so do I have a motion to, or hear a motion to approve the minutes of June 15th, 2021?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
George.
Come on, John.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, by roll call, Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Torsha,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay,
All right, Don,
now
I'm
Bethany.
going
Okay.
to share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, give me a second. Sorry, I didn't think ahead. Should be okay now.
Okay. All right, can everybody see that okay? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So just a really quick recap of where we were and where we are currently. The current master plan for East Long Meadow is dated December 1976. 45 years later, we're now looking at East Long Meadow's Resilient Master Plan for 2021. For anybody watching this who hasn't been involved in the process, I just wanted to emphasize that the town has not been just sitting around for 45 years. There's a number of reports and plans that have been done over those decades that helped create the master plan. And I have a couple listed here if I can. There we go. And this is also for anybody in the public watching this video. If you are ever interested in participating and you're bummed out that you didn't get to participate in the master plan, there's always something going on, so please feel free to reach out to the town departments. And I wanted to go over the process for the master plan, which spanned from 2020 to 2021, almost a full year. So in June 2020, East Long Meadow became an MVP certified community. That made it so we could access the MVP Action Grant program offered by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So we applied for the grant in June, I believe, and we were awarded about $83,000 to help to fund and support the development of East Long Meadow's Resilient Master Plan in about July of 2020. August through December 2020, we had the housing chapter working group who drafted the housing chapter of the master plan with the district local technical assistance provided by Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. That was kind of set up earlier in 2020 before we knew that we had received the award from the Action Grant, but it worked out pretty well with our scheduling. December 2020, we recruited and appointed the Master Plan Steering Committee. We had our first couple of meetings, December and January. February, we had our virtual community visioning session, which was one of the highlights of my time with East Long Meadow so far, a really positive experience. I think 60 plus or minus people were in attendance. In March 2021, we had our stakeholder focus groups with mostly the department staff in town, as well as some of the business owners and developers in town as well, and our board members and local farmers were involved in that process. April through May 2021, we had a student engagement activity, which I can't really take credit for because Don Mackey and the school staff did most of the heavy lifting there. But that involved creating a public service announcement video with the students to get their peers involved in the master plan. They also did a survey in the high school to get students' feedback on the implementation actions that we had drafted up based off of the visioning session and survey responses, as well as the focus group conversations we had had. We also had a community implementation workshop on a Thursday evening that was also well attended, also virtual, where we really spent 2 hours going over every implementation action that was proposed and making sure that it was not only a good fit for East Long Meadow, but feasible and something within our capacity. And finally, we have June 2021 with the final draft of the plan submitted to the planning board for review. And I just want to emphasize that this is a really condensed timeline, and that typically communities set aside about 2 years to develop a master plan. And that's having their last master plan 10 or 20 years prior. So we accomplished something in a very quick time frame. And I also want to emphasize that this was done during the pandemic. So it's a huge success, I think, for the East Long Meadow community. And if you weren't proud about East Long Meadow, I hope you are now. So a really quick recap of what the master plan contains. It has, I said 10 chapters, but it's really 7 chapters, not including the visions and goals. 7 chapters are required under Massachusetts general law, and we added an additional one, the climate adaptation and sustainability chapter. That was a requirement under the MVP Action Grant, which focuses on how communities can be more sustainable and resilient. The entire master plan, as you might have noticed, is called the Resilient Master Plan. So what we tried to do is under each chapter look at it through the lens of of resiliency and climate change. Through our community feedback, we found identified 5 themes. That's protection of natural environment, maintaining and sustaining a sense of community, focusing on Center Square and how we can not only attract and retain small businesses in that area, but really make it more pedestrian friendly and safe. Maintaining a resilient, balanced growth. We don't want too much of one thing and not the other. And ensuring sustainability as we move forward. And if you haven't noticed, it's been a little rainy lately, so you might be able to tell how climate change and resiliency are just becoming more and more relatable as we move forward, and we want the community to be able to move forward and achieve all of these goals in each chapter while still being able to balance what nature throws our way. And over on our right is the list of the vision that was created based off the community visioning session. And I will let you read through that on your own time when you read through the full master plan. I And then I wanted to give a huge shout out to our Resilient Master Plan Steering Committee, who have been cool, calm, and collected the entire time. A lot of them did not know what they were really signing up for, I don't think. And so huge thank you from me for not only volunteering your time, but also being willing to learn something new about the town. And that's our chair, Connor O'Shea, vice chair, Joe Williams, Marilyn Richards, George Kingston, Gordon Smith, Pamela Blair, and Tim Murphy. And I also want to thank our Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, who were our consultants throughout the process, as well as the Barrett Planning Group, who helped with the community engagement aspects of the process. They really brought something to the table, having their virtual community events, which were a huge hit. And I also want to recognize all the other people who were involved in this. And I thought this pie chart was a perfect symbolization of how many people and departments and organizations and businesses, and I'm sure I'm missing a few down here, but it was a huge effort and could not have been completed without everybody involved here. And that's my little spiel.
Connor, do you want to make some comments?
Sure. I think it was a great process overall, and as Bethany mentioned, it certainly was expedited. And I mean, it's hard to believe that it's actually almost over already because it just went by so fast. But I think we have a pretty solid plan moving forward. Certainly a lot of positive comments from the community, and it actually seems like a lot of members of the community weren't far off in what they were thinking. It's not like we had a lot of different groups of or factions that wanted totally different things and taking the town in different directions. So I think we have a good path forward.
And George, you were the planning board member on the steering committee. Do you want to have comments? You're muted, George.
I think it was a very thorough process. I was impressed with the amount of community input that we got. And I'm really impressed with Bethany for getting the grants to begin with, and then for making this thing happen after we've been talking about it for about 5 years before she got here. So I'm really happy that it's accomplished. And I think implementation will be a challenge, but we've got at least a blueprint for where we want to go.
So I will open it up to members of the planning board. If you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, I think I'll just kind of lead off, and you just kind of just highlighted it. So when did we go to call the Rotary the center square? Because someone who has only lived in town for 18 years, I think of Center Square as the shopping center. And I think the rest of the surrounding area as the Rotary. So are we renaming the Rotary? Maybe some of you who've been in town much longer than me can kind of come up with some ideas. So.
If I could comment, Russ?
Sure.
The official postal address of the businesses, including the town hall, that abut what we call the Rotary, which isn't a Rotary, are all Center Square. So town hall is 60 Center Square.
Okay.
Okay, and across the street, this chocolate shop is something else, Center Square. So that's been that way for the post office as long as I've been here.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes, I was also corrected during one of our community events by somebody, a longtime resident, who was like, no, that's not the Rotary, it's Center Square. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification, because I had no idea.
No, I mean, myself, I just always use the terms the center and Rotary interchangeably.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard this, 22-year resident, and this is the first time I've heard of
So I did take the time to read all 163 pages of this document. I was very, very impressed with the work that you've done. I think the major themes are right on target. I agree with George. Now the hard work begins, and the hard work is the implementation. although I think that we have people strategically placed on various town boards and committees to kind of get this off to a really resounding, start. So I'm really happy with that. Any comments that I had, I kind of forwarded to Bethany, and I know that she has made some. Really, they're more clarifications than any type of substantive changes. So I appreciate the work that she did on that. So we do actually need to take a formal vote. Bethany has provided me with the proper language. So I will put it out there, and if someone wishes to put this for the board, you can. But it needs to be a motion to adopt the 2021 Resilient Master Plan pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D. With that, Bethany, can you just also let everyone know that with the creation and the adoption of the Resilient Master Plan, this puts us in line for additional grant dollars that the state has, because they are putting a condition on some of these grants that the town is actually enacted a master plan. Is that correct?
I don't think that is correct.
Okay.
And maybe it's mixed up with another grant opportunity.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. You might be thinking of the green certified communities.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Before we vote on this, Mr. Chairman, should we invite comments from the council members who are present?
Absolutely. Well, I know Connor had a few words early. Marilyn, to put you on the spot.
Thank you. No problem. To be honest, it turned out to be a much more exciting opportunity for me. Bethany knows that initially I was invited to participate and I pulled away and let others. I wanted some new blood to participate, and I ended up filling a vacancy, and it's been the best committee that I've served on in a long time. The support from the members and the consultants and the community was just outstanding. What I found interesting is that East Long Meadow hasn't changed much really in terms of our people and the things that we moved to East Long Meadow, the reasons we moved to East Long Meadow, the issues that we come to expect and enjoy within our community. And a lot of what was discussed in 1976 was brought up again in this endeavor, which is not a bad thing. We are a small town community. I mean, we want to have small town character. We want to preserve our natural resources. We want to be connected to one another. And, both plans sort of address that. This is an amazing plan. I'm pleased to have been part of it. Thank you, Bethany, for everything that you did. And everyone else too.
Good. So I'll just open it up to anybody else who is on the call if you have some comments that you'd like to add.
I had the chance to read most of it. I was, pretty thoroughly impressed by it. I think, some of the goals are, even starting to get developed right now. I know CPC is working on a master plan as we speak. I think it's like what people should understand. It's, it's a governing document, so it won't be implemented, immediately, but it'll be something that we can, look at for years and years to come. And obviously a much better update than something that was, 45 years old. I don't know who can answer this, but just sort of maybe a general question I had. What are, like, for the public out there, what's like the 2 or 3 takeaways, the most important things that this document kind of highlights that people should know? I don't know who could answer that question, but Bethany, maybe, not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That's a good question. I think what the plan is to me is that the residents do have an opportunity and do have a voice, and they should use it. And if they want to be part of what their town looks like in the future, we welcome that, and we'd like to hear from them.
As a 70-year or soon to be 70-year resident of East Long Meadow, when I was younger, Pease Road, Prospect Street were dirt. It was a very back country type of place. Great people. We have tar roads, quite a bit of traffic, but I think the vision is wonderful for East Long Meadow. It shows that it's a good community made up of great people. We've got, good business, and it seems like with the master plan, I haven't read all of it, but I read 55, 60 pages of it. There's things there that I never even thought about, which, made my mind start to go to work. And I can see us, another 10, 15 years from now, which I'll be an old guy, but the town should have a great business corridor. It should have a community that is, involved and is satisfied by what the town provides for them. And it should be East Long Meadow, and it still is now, just a little busier. And I applaud the hard work. There's a lot of stuff in that document, a lot. Impressive.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the detail, and I'm a huge data-oriented person, so I would really encourage anybody who hasn't looked at it to take a look at the data. There's definitely some things that jumped out. There's things that I kind of knew of or had an idea of, but there were some surprises definitely in the data, both from the responses, but then also just the general town data. So I encourage people to look at that.
Yeah, just to tack onto those 2 points, for people of the community that are looking for like a broad overview, it's hard to sum it up into just like 2 or 3
Right.
topics or bullet points, but really that vision statement that has a list of like 10 or so things plus the 5 themes, it really sets out like what the entire plan was about at the beginning there. And then of course, if you're interested in a particular topic, there's a whole slew of data in the chapters that follow.
There's something there for everybody, that's for sure.
Right.
Marilyn?
As I see it, the first project that we're going to be able to interface with this master plan is the application for Pride Convenience in the center of our town. And I think the timing is perfect. I mean, the use is allowed at that location, but I do believe there's an opportunity for the town to take what we've drafted in our master plan in terms of safety, in terms of our historical reputation with being a quarrying community, and maybe we can somehow incorporate that history into this project reasonably, but just take into consideration the things that the residents all brought up with our town center. So we're going to put it to work pretty soon.
Agree. Okay. Yes, Joe.
I just kind of wanted to just throw my 2 cents in and say the whole process was definitely eye-opening. As being just kind of a more basic resident, I guess, of the town, it was great to see all the people come together and provide all their feedback. And Bethany and Connor and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and Barrett, the group, it was just such a huge joint effort that everyone, did to take care of this document, and it's very well thought out. And it would be certainly interesting to see this thing, come to shape in the next 5, 10, 15 plus years. And I think it's just a testament to, the town and its residents and how they feel, and the fact that their voice is being heard. And, and there are opportunities to become involved if they want to be. So, just to kind of mirror what Bethany said on that. But overall, the experience was great.
I'd like to just ask a question related to that. So Bethany, have we been able to convert any of the people that were focus groups or vision groups to committee or board members yet?
I think they have been involved, but not necessarily in one of our boards that I'm aware of.
But it gives a wonderful list of people to reach out to for opportunities.
Yes, we do have an Excel sheet of people who wanted to be updated as we progressed along the master plan, so they could attend community events, and we'll be using that moving forward for other community events.
Good.
And I think to tack on to that as well, even if some of them weren't interested in specific or broad committees, there were certainly people interested in specific topics that we can reach out as those come up in the next couple of years.
Great. Good. All right. Anybody else want to add anything? If not, so the motion again would be to adopt the 2021 Resilient Master Plan pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D. John?
Just a procedural question. So we will be voting on it. Does this then need to go to the town council, or does this not need to go to the town council?
Per the Massachusetts general law, it's only the planning board who needs to adopt it. Town council is more than welcome to hold a ceremony if they'd like to also adopt it, but it's only required for the planning board.
Okay, just wanted to. Thank you.
So do I hear that motion?
So moved. George Kingston.
Seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Punderson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, by roll call. Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Torsia,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Glad to see that.
So thanks. We do have just another item or two for planning board. So if you need to drop off, feel free to do so. But I would just like to remind the planning board members that we are now in July, and that would necessitate a reorganization of the board. Since it's not on our agenda, we should put it on for our next agenda for the meeting, which would now be in August.
No, we have a public hearing next week.
Okay, so maybe we can put it on the agenda to begin the meeting for next week. We can do that. And Bethany, what can you tell me about a fifth planning board member? Anything?
I don't have any updates at the moment.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Mackey has told us that since we do have a meeting regarding PLH Inc. at 6 p.m., that we can close this meeting.
No, you're gonna just
No?
go, you're just gonna basically vote to go into recess.
Okay, thank you.
Silence your, turn off your cameras and silence your microphones. And I will change the text on my slide to, instead of say East Long Meadow, to say planning board in recess till 6 p.m.
So, but for the board members, why don't we come back at 5:55?
I'll make a motion to recess until 5:55.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, by roll call. Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Torsia,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you in a few.
See you in a
Thank
few.
So this is the planning board. We should vote to come out of recess.
Well, we can't vote to come out of recess. We just voted out of recess.
All right, thank you. So we're out of recess. So, so we are here. Mr. Torsia, if you could just read the item before us, thank you.
6 p.m. public hearing, remand case site 2019-11, ground-mounted solar facility requested by applicant for the installation of a 4-megawatt ground-mounted solar facility at rear Pease Road, assessor's parcel ID 33-1-0, located on 21.26 plus or minus acre site in the Residence AA zoning district. Applicant Steve Breuer, PLH LLC, 22 South 9th Street, Suite 1600, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
So I will just for public information. So we are joined by Attorney Michael Pill, who has represented the town on a variety of matters related to this item, but I will do my best to at least let the public know what has taken place and how we find ourselves here tonight. So I believe in late 2019 there was a petition for a zone change in front of the town council with respect to this parcel. It was denied. There was also a site plan petition put before the planning board. This is for a solar array by the petitioner, PLH Inc. And the planning board denied the site plan because at the time they felt that it was not permitted under the existing residential zoning. It went to land court, and eventually it found its way back to the planning board. At that time, the planning board, with further discussion from the petitioner decided, the planning board believed that there was not sufficient frontage for this project. They sought a waiver through the ZBA. The ZBA granted a waiver with conditions. After the waiver with conditions was granted, the petitioner came back to the planning board, and by a 2-2 vote, the site plan was again denied. It went back to land court, and eventually the land court judge, Judge Piper, has remanded it back to the planning board for a new hearing, and with the stipulation that the planning board not consider the zone in which it is located and strictly treat it as a site plan, I guess within a specific allowed zone. And so we find ourselves back here. Since that time, so in 2019, Mr. Punderson was new to the board, and he came in after the initial hearing. So he was never part of any of the voting related to this matter. Subsequently, Tide Richards, who was a member of the planning board throughout all of this, resigned his position on the planning board effective, I believe it was June 16th of 2021, and subsequently moved back to New York State. We have been informed by Attorney Pill that because this is a new petition, new matter, that Mr. Punderson can now vote and participate in this this application before the planning board. We are under somewhat of a time requirement with the court, so we have called this special meeting of the planning board to hear this item. We had put it off for a period of time until we were able to determine when Mr. Richards was officially resigning his position and whether we would have a new planning board member to take his place by that time. And subsequent to that time period, we found out that Mr. Punderson was now able to participate in the process. So as the planning board chair and as planning board members, we have done everything we can to meet any time requirement issued by Judge Piper to comply with his order. So I believe that I have put that in its chronological order and the reason why we are here. So if the petitioner is available and wishes to join the meeting, we can discuss how we might move forward on this petition. Jamie, is anybody in the audience?
Yep, he's being promoted right now. Hold on.
Okay. Mr. Breuer, good to see you.
Good to see you all as well.
So before we get started, so I guess I have a couple of questions and it might help us expedite the matter. So in the original filings with the town back in 2019, have there been any changes at all?
Just throughout the process that we had gone through with getting clearances from DPW.
Yeah.
All of the 4 presentations that I have given you, I have basically updated a new presentation to kind of treat this as a new project to everyone. That basically outlines the timeline of what we've done, as well as at the end, I've just added additional information relating to us adhering to all of the conditions of the frontage variance request, which has been, items that we've been attempting to get from East Long Meadow Fire, police, etc.
But as far as the placement of the lot lines and where you're going to have the actual structures, none of that has changed since the initial filing?
No, it has not. The footprint of the facility is identical. The only thing that we've changed is attempting to dot I's and cross more T's.
Okay. So I did indicate that we had a frontage issue. You went and received the ZBA variance with conditions. So a number of in fact, I think maybe all of the conditions have actually been complied with. Can you tell me the status, you or Bethany, tell me the status of the easement?
Yep, Attorney Jim Martin picked it up this afternoon and he'll have it recorded later this week.
Okay. And so at the last ZBA meeting, there was a recommendation voted on by the ZBA that in their opinion, the materials provided gave enough evidence of an intermunicipal agreement between the town of Summers and the town of East Long Meadow. And Bethany has confirmed with the town manager today that it is of her opinion that there is sufficient information to make her believe that an intermunicipal agreement is in place. Am I correct, Bethany?
Correct.
So that all of the conditions, with the exception of the filing or the recording of the easement, have been put in place. Is that correct, Bethany?
Yes.
Okay. So I believe, and we'll just verify with a simple yes from everyone, that we do not believe that we need a full-scale presentation by DLH. We are more than sufficiently informed of the site plan requirements and what the plans say. So can I confirm that, everyone? Just a simple yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Don? Okay. So anything else you want to add, Mr. Breuer?
I just got a email from Jim Martin that he could not get into the meeting. He did want to attend as well. I just sent him the Zoom link that was tied to the agenda. Bethany, can you see him in the waiting room or anything like that?
I don't see him on here.
Well, I don't think we need to, wait for him.
Okay.
Because we believe that we are probably ready to take some action on this.
Okay.
So I would open this to the board members and see if there are any specific questions of Mr. Breuer.
Mr. Boyer, hi, this is Pete Punderson. I've been on the screen, but I haven't been able to participate. Now that it's a new meeting, I'm glad to participate. I'm let you know I'm a great advocate of solar power. I've been to school for it, in Massachusetts, and it's something I was going to do myself, but the electrical unions took care of that. So I'm a passive, interested but passive in that department, in that capacity. I don't know if the issue's been addressed. Should there be a fire, what can we do for water supply to the area? That would be my first question to you. Is there an available fire plug, or is a fire plug going to be put in close proximity for a pumper to get to it?
I don't see the intent of doing that. We have 8 megawatts that are, 5 under construction or that are completed with construction down in the state of Connecticut adjacent to this facility.
Okay.
We do not have a well or anything to that nature. What we have done is where inverters or our equipment pads are, those are all either concrete or we put an aggregate pads beneath them. Those are the typical locations if fires were to occur. But our concerns are with grass fires as well, but it hasn't been in a requirement for the 45 plus megawatts that I've built in the Northeast to have connections to either a municipal water supply or a holding tank or something of that fashion. It's it's pretty rare that you're going to have fires on site. And, from that standpoint, it's not something that we look to having a standing water supply per se for the facility.
Okay, I referenced that in relation to your keeping your solar, panels protected and your electrical equipment protected, all your inverters and all that. And also, just because if a fire starts, it's not easy to sit there with a little squirter, hand squirter, put them out. But if the precedent hasn't been set, then I'm not here to argue with you.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? So I believe you said that this is a public hearing, so I guess I'll open it to the public if there's anyone out there who is interested to speak on this matter. Okay, hearing none, I guess I'll make a motion, or I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. To any discussion about closing the public hearing? Hearing none, by roll call, Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Torsia,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So, Mr. Breuer, at one time, you also sought waivers of certain conditions. So previously, the planning board granted a waiver for buffer strips,
Yep.
for utility connections, for fencing, and all of those were waived with the requirements contingent upon stipulation that if adjacent residence zoning parcels be developed, the perimeters shall be relocated, or, fencing would be required, that type of thing. I'm sure you're familiar with what those votes were.
Yep, I am. And
Any changes to that? I'm sure you
no,
would.
those three waivers were ultimately agreed upon. And I think the fourth one, which was reporting, we will continue to provide reporting to you guys.
Good. So I guess we as a board should probably just reconfirm the vote. So they were fencing, we granted a waiver, utility connections, we granted the waiver, and the buffer strips, we granted the waiver, and the denial of the waiver of reporting. So I guess I would just like to maybe get a vote on the record confirming those. John, do you want to make a motion to confirm those waivers?
Yes, I will make a motion to confirm those.
Those votes. Yeah,
Those
those.
votes, the 3 approved and the 1 denial.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Boyer, or not quite Steve.
That's fine, please.
Is fencing is not required, is that correct?
It is per the latest NEC code. It has to be 6.5 feet or higher, or ultimately it's 7 feet. 6.5 feet with 6 inches of barb, or a 7-foot fence around all the electrical facilities that are above 600 volts.
Okay, so there is a fence around it.
Yes.
So am I to understand that should a development go in there in the future, which is very possible, that a border will be put up separating the fencing and the project from the residential district? Is that going to happen?
That was the element of that variance, or
That's
that
a contingency. Yeah.
contingency, yes.
Okay.
So if there was a residential development to the north, we would have to adhere to screening in the facility in some fashion.
Just want to be clear on it, that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
So on that, by roll call, Mr. Torsia,
Yes.
Mr. Kingston,
Yes.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. So on the main motion to approve the site plan, so I would like to propose 2 contingents, or 2.
Do we have a motion yet, Mr. Chair?
No, go ahead.
So I'll make a motion to approve the site plan with conditions that you may propose.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made in second, so discussion. 1, that it be conditioned upon receipt of the easement properly recorded with the Registry of Deeds. That's number 1. And number 2, something we asked back in 2019. I refer you to the design document 07 decommissioning plan, and this is the original application. And we still have under 5.0 decommissioning preparation
Yep.
that the town of Spencer is referenced rather than the town of East Long Meadow.
Okay.
I know that we asked that be corrected, and to the best of my knowledge, that has not been corrected. So I would like to get a copy with a corrected town in there. And that's just those two conditions that I have recommended. So,
Okay. I think that can easily be done.
all right, any discussion?
A point of information, if I may.
I don't see a reason
I just
for it. Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
wanted to let you know that the easement has been signed. The town has a copy.
We're
it's being-
aware of that.
Okay, and it's being recorded tomorrow. I picked it up this afternoon from the planning board.
Great. So I'm sure you'll get a copy to Bethany as soon as possible.
Correct.
So on the motion with conditions, by roll call, Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Kingston,
In deference to the court, but under protest, aye.
thank you, Mr. Torsia,
Aye.
and is with great regret to the residents of the town of East Long Meadow who, by one of the purest forms of democracy through town meeting, approved an appropriate zone for all of this. It is with regret that, yes, I vote aye. Any other matters be properly before the planning board, Bethany?
No, that's it.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Torsia,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Good night, everyone.
Good night.